Deontay Wilder is one of the biggest punchers the heavyweight division has ever seen, but as the heavy-hitting Alabaman came up against Tyson Fury in his last two fights, losing both fights as well as his world titles in the process, questions have been asked as to whether or not that would be the end of his career. Turns out, it's not. Today, we're discussing Wilder's next opponent after his recent announcement. Stay tuned. Let's get straight into it then. What's going down? Well, fans could be forgiven for thinking that last October's defeat against the Gypsy King will be the last time we would see the Bronze Bomber, but apparently that's not the case. Last week, Wilder announced that he would in fact be fighting on, and the heavyweight who has finished 41 out of his 42 of his wins via knockout will go up against Robert Helenius, and later this year at Barclays Center in Brooklyn. The fight will, of course, be his first since back-to-back defeats against Fury, when it was thought that he was seriously considering retirement. Having never been so much as knocked down in his career before coming up against Fury, Wilder suffered a shock to the system after taking on the big Englishman 3 times in less than 3 years. As Fury was able to figure out his style over the first fight, he went on to completely dominate Deontay in the 2 subsequent fights, stopping him both times. And the fight was actually only the 5th trilogy in the history of the heavyweight division, somewhat surprisingly, as there have been prolonged periods in the past where there have only really been 1 or 2 real contenders for the heavyweight title. And Wilder's return to Brooklyn could be a good omen, as he won every fight he's ever had in New York Borough. And what do you guys make of Wilder's announcement? What did Wilder himself have to say then? Stay tuned to find out. Well, the big Alabama man was in a bullish mood when the news of his upcoming fight dropped last week, and he told reporters in emphatic fashion that his journey would, in fact, be continuing. Of course, like so many of Wilder's fights in the past, the bout will be aired on Fox's pay-per-view service, and Wilder had the following to say: "I thought so many times about whether I should stay out of the business or come back. Once I got my statue in my hometown and saw so many people arrive and celebrate with me and my family, to see all the emotions, grown men crying in front of their children and saying he is a real true king, made me feel like my job is not done." Of course, Wilder was referring to his hometown of Tuscaloosa, whose local government recently unveiled a statue of the Bronze Bomber made out of, yep, you guessed it, bronze. And Wilder went on to say that he was actually looking forward to returning to the ring, having been away for almost a year, saying, "I'm looking forward to coming to Barclays Center, a place where I've had most of my devastating knockouts and a place I consider my second home." His opponent, Helenius, has suffered 3 defeats in his career so far, and Wilder will be hoping to extend that record to 4 once fight night rolls around on October 15th. Who do you got? And next up, Wilder's had his say on Anthony Joshua's bizarre post-fight speech last weekend. As you will almost certainly know by now, Anthony Joshua was defeated again by Ukrainian champion Alexander Usyk last weekend in a rematch of last September's first bout. And after the fight, Joshua delivered a cringe-inducing rambling speech, which Deontay has actually blamed on a couple of different things. Alluding to the fact that Joshua is going through a meltdown, Wilder suggested you give them, quote, fighters, everything, and you bring them along to try to avoid all the tough fights and stuff like that. Then when it boils down to the wire and things start going downhill, you don't really know who to trust and believe because you've been listening to all this fake stuff. Of course, reading between the lines, Wilder is probably suggesting that Joshua's team might have been at fault, but went on to urge all fighters to get scans to try and combat mental health issues, which he believes might have been the reason for Joshua's outburst. He said, "I advise all fighters to go get MRI scans, CAT scans, and brain scans, because we have things internally going on with us that we may not feel. We can feel great all the time, but when you get those tests done, it says something different." Before going on to say that the head isn't supposed to be hit whatsoever, I mean, you're possibly in the wrong game then, Deontay. And who does Deontay have if Usyk versus Fury goes down then? As soon as the final bell rang out in Jeddah on Saturday night, attention quickly turned to a potential matchup between the victorious Usyk and the Gypsy King Tyson Fury. The pair are both unbeaten in their careers, so a fight between these two is the only thing that really makes sense at the top of the heavyweight division. Of course, Tyson claimed to be retired after his fight against Dillian Whyte this spring, but everyone knew that was a bluff. This week, Fury's demanded $500 million to fight Usyk, which is clearly nonsensical. But should he eventually step into the ring against the Ukrainian, you can probably quite comfortably expect somewhere in the region of 50 million pounds. And speaking about the potential fight recently, Wilder suggested that his former tormentor, Fury, would probably get the job done, saying, "I think Fury will be too big for him. He just likes to use his size all the time, no matter what, and a lot of other things." I mean, you would do that too though, right? Wilder went on to suggest that Usyk would simply be too small against the big English fighter, whilst also claiming that Alexander might not be the fittest heavyweight to ever grace the ring, saying, "And I think Usyk has a stamina problem as well. You saw him with Joshua, and if Joshua had enough stamina, it would probably be a different result." Do you guys agree with Deontay? Fury has reacted to Wilder's recent fight announcement too. Stay with us. Never one to mince his words, Tyson Fury has delivered a brutal message to his former opponent, telling Deontay Wilder to get back of the queue. The Gypsy King was airing his views on Wilder's upcoming fight with Robert Helenius after it was suggested the Bronze Bomber could tackle Anthony Joshua or Alexander Usyk at some point if he beats Helenius. For some who claim he is retired, he sure demands a lot, am I right? Wilder had previously said the heavyweight division is boring without him, and after claiming he would fight them all, anyone in the heavyweight division that is, recently, Fury has categorically told Deontay there is no chance of him skipping the queue. Tyson said, "Tell that dosser to get to the back of the queue with the rest of the losers. And don't forget the last time we saw this bum, he needed to get scraped off the canvas in Vegas." The idea of a fourth fight between Fury and Wilder would have been laughed off after the third fight last year, but with Fury seemingly reigniting their feud, never say never. However, Wilder will more than likely need another few wins under his belt before that eventually is seriously considered. What do you guys make of Fury's words? He's quite the wordsmith, isn't he? And finally, Andy Ruiz has been speaking about the possibility of a fight against Deontay. Stay tuned. With Tyson Fury currently holding up the top of the heavyweight division as he makes us wait for his decision on whether he's actually retired or not, Andy Ruiz has come up with a suggestion which for a lot of people makes sense. He is next out against Luis Ortiz in a fight he is probably expected to win, and he suggested that if Deontay comes through his fight against Helenius unscathed, then a fight between the pair is inevitable. If Fury decides to stay retired, any fight between Wilder and Ruiz would more than likely be for the WBC title, and Ruiz has recently said a matchup against Deontay Wilder would be an amazing fight. The heavyweight division is wide open, and whilst he is correct, defeat for either one of them would have serious ramifications for the rest of their respective careers, as Wilder has been beaten in his past too, whilst Ruiz has only fought once since being dethroned by Anthony Joshua almost 3 years ago. Ruiz went on to say, "I'm not overlooking Luis Ortiz. If Wilder is next, he's next. It's an easy fight to make." Of course, he's right, this one would sell itself. And who would you guys have if this one gets booked after each of their next fights? Let us know down below. As usual, thanks for dropping by today, and remember to join us again next time when we'll be discussing all sorts of other cool bits and pieces. And why not do us a big favor by liking and sharing today's video with any fans of the sweet science you might have on your socials. Bye guys.